Imagine a city where emperors once ruled from behind vermilion walls, where the scent of jasmine tea mingles with the exhaust of millions of cars, where ancient hutongs whisper secrets while skyscrapers pierce the clouds. Now picture this, a place that was meticulously planned over 3,000 years ago, yet continues to reinvent itself every single day. What if I told you that beneath the modern metropolis of Beijing lies a city that wasn't just built, it was designed according to cosmic principles, aligned with the stars themselves. A city where every gate, every street, every palace was positioned to channel the energy of heaven and earth. Have you ever wondered why one city became the heart of the world's most populous nation, the seat of power for dynasties that shaped human civilization? The answer lies not just in geography or military might, but in something far more intriguing, a deliberate creation born from ancient philosophy, strategic brilliance, and an unwavering belief in destiny. Beijing, known to the world as China's capital, holds secrets in every corner, from the underground tunnels built during the Cold War to the imperial city that once forbade ordinary citizens from even approaching its walls. This is not just a city of monuments and museums. This is a living, breathing testament to human ambition, where 5 million people navigate between tradition and transformation every single day. What makes a city become the center of an empire? Why did rulers choose this exact location? And how did a settlement in northern China become one of the most influential cities on Earth? The story begins with nomadic tribes, continues through Mongol conquerors, and explodes into a modern megacity that hosts everything from the world's largest public square to neighborhoods where time seems to have stopped centuries ago. Before we dive deeper into this fascinating journey through one of humanity's most extraordinary urban achievements, I want to invite you to join our community of curious explorers. Subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our documentaries about unique cultures and incredible places around the world. And tell me, from which country are you watching this right now? It's wonderful to have viewers from all corners of the globe sharing this journey with us. Thank you for being here. Now, let's continue unraveling the mysteries of Beijing. The transformation of this city is nothing short of miraculous. From a frontier outpost defending against northern invaders to the political nerve center of a nation of 1.4 billion people, Beijing's evolution defies simple explanation. But here's what makes it truly fascinating. The city you see today was almost completely redesigned not once, but multiple times throughout history. Kublai Khan razed the old city and rebuilt it according to his vision. The Ming dynasty reconstructed it with such precision that their urban planning principles still influence the city's layout today. And in the past 40 years, Beijing has undergone perhaps its most dramatic transformation yet, preparing for the 2008 Olympics by essentially rebuilding vast sections while somehow preserving its soul. What drives a city to constantly reinvent itself while clinging to traditions that date back millennia? The answer to this paradox lies in understanding how Beijing became Beijing, not just in name, but in spirit. Beijing, officially known as the Beijing Municipality, serves as the capital of the People's Republic of China and stands as one of the 4 direct-controlled municipalities in the country, alongside Shanghai, Tianjin, and Chongqing. Located in northern China, Beijing sits at approximately 39.9 9 latitude and 116.4 GE longitude, positioned at the northern tip of the roughly triangular North China Plain. The city is bordered by Hebei province on all sides except the southeast, where it meets Tianjin municipality. This strategic location, nestled between the mountains and the plain, proved crucial in its selection as a capital, close enough to defend against invasions from the north, yet accessible enough to govern the fertile lands to the south. Beijing covers an enormous area of 16,410 square kilometers, making it slightly larger than the entire state of Connecticut, or roughly the size of Belgium's Flanders region. Despite this vast expanse, the urban core where most of the 5 million residents actually occupies a much smaller area, creating one of the world's most densely populated urban centers with approximately 1,300 people per square kilometer in the core districts. The city experiences a continental climate with 4 distinct seasons. Brutally cold, dry winters where temperatures regularly drop to 10 degrees C, scorching summers reaching 40 degrees, and brief but beautiful spring and autumn periods that locals treasure. The summer months bring 75% of Beijing's annual rainfall, while winter can pass with barely a drop of precipitation, leading to the famous Beijing dust storms when Gobi Desert winds sweep across the region. The name Beijing itself reveals the city's purpose. It literally means northern capital in Mandarin Chinese, a name it has carried officially since 1403 when the Ming dynasty established it as the imperial seat. But Beijing's story begins far earlier, around 1045 BCE, when it served as the capital of the ancient Yan state during the Zhou dynasty, known then as Ji. For over 3,000 years, this location has been continuously inhabited, though it went through numerous name changes and periods of varying importance. The city gained prominence during the Liao dynasty, 907 to 125 CE, when it served as a secondary capital called Nanjing, or Southern Capital. The Jurchen Jin dynasty, 1115-1234 CE, made it their primary capital, calling it Zhongdu, or Central Capital, and began the tradition of grand imperial construction that would define Beijing's character. But the most dramatic transformation came in 1272, when Kublai Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan and founder of the Yuan dynasty, completely rebuilt the city according to principles laid out in ancient Chinese texts about ideal capital design. He named it Dadu, meaning great capital, and it became the first time a non-Han Chinese dynasty ruled all of China from this location. When the Ming dynasty overthrew the Mongols in 1368, they initially moved the capital south to Nanjing, but Emperor Yongle returned it to Beijing in 1421, launching perhaps the most magnificent building campaign in the city's history. This is when the Forbidden City, Temple of Heaven, and many structures we associate with Beijing today were constructed. This historical legacy connects directly to what makes Beijing unique today. The city wasn't just a convenient administrative center, it was conceived as the physical manifestation of Chinese cosmology and political philosophy. According to traditional Chinese geomancy, or feng shui, Beijing's location was ideal. Mountains to the north and west provided protection, while rivers and plains to the south and east provided sustenance and communication routes. The Forbidden City itself was designed as a microcosm of the universe, with the emperor at the center, serving as the intermediary between heaven and earth. Every gate, wall, and building followed strict symbolic principles derived from the ancient text, the Rites of Zhou, which described the ideal capital as a perfect square with 3 gates on each side and major thoroughfares running north-south and east-west. The Ming dynasty's rebuilding followed these principles so precisely that Beijing became the ultimate expression of traditional Chinese urban planning. The city was organized along a central axis running north-south, with the emperor's residence at the center and the city expanding outward in concentric rectangles. This axis stretching 8 kilometers from the Forbidden City through Tiananmen Square to the Temple of Heaven, is considered one of the longest and most important urban planning achievements in history. Even today, building restrictions maintain clear sight lines along this axis, connecting Beijing's modern identity to its imperial past in ways visible from space. The Great Wall snakes across Beijing's northern horizon like a stone dragon frozen mid-flight, its weathered battlements climbing impossibly steep mountain ridges that seem to touch the clouds. At Mutianyu, one of the most dramatic sections accessible from Beijing, the wall stretches for 4 kilometers along knife-edge ridges, with watchtowers perched at intervals that allowed guards to signal danger with fire and smoke across distances exceeding 100 kilometers. Stand on these ancient stones at sunrise, and you'll hear nothing but wind whistling through arrow slits designed 600 years ago. Feel the rough texture of bricks that have withstood countless winter storms where temperatures plunge to 20 degrees C. and see the wall disappearing into morning mist like a pathway between earth and sky. The wall here rises and falls with elevation changes exceeding 300 meters, creating sections so steep they require modern handrails for safety. Imagine soldiers running these passages in full armor during attacks. The golden light of dawn illuminates the surrounding mountains, covered in forests that turn brilliant crimson and amber in autumn, creating a color palette that ranges from the dusty gray of ancient stones to the vivid red of maple leaves against impossibly blue October skies. What most people don't realize is that what you're seeing isn't one continuous structure, but rather a complex system of walls, fortifications, and defensive positions built and rebuilt over 2,000 years, with the sections near Beijing representing the Ming Dynasty's final and most sophisticated defensive works constructed between 1368 and 1644. But if you want to understand Beijing's soul, you must venture into the Forbidden City, a palace complex so vast it contains 980 buildings covering 72 hectares. That's roughly 100 football fields filled with temples, halls, gardens, and courtyards. Walking through the massive Gate of Heavenly Peace into Tiananmen Square and then approaching the Meridian Gate, you're struck by the sheer scale. Vermilion walls rise 10 meters high, topped with golden yellow glazed tiles that blaze like captured sunlight, while intricate wooden beams painted in greens, blues, and reds create a visual symphony of traditional Chinese architecture. The complex was home to 24 emperors across the Ming and Qing dynasties, and for 500 years, ordinary citizens were forbidden from entering, hence the name. Today, as you pass through successive courtyards, each one larger than the last, you begin to grasp the deliberate use of space to inspire awe. The Hall of Supreme Harmony, the largest building, sits atop a three-tiered white marble platform and reaches 35 meters in height, with a golden throne precisely positioned at what ancient astronomers calculated as the exact center of the Chinese universe. The silence in the inner courtyards is almost supernatural despite the thousands of daily visitors. You hear only footsteps echoing on ancient stones, the rustle of wind through ginkgo trees planted centuries ago, and perhaps distant temple bells. The Imperial Garden at the north end offers a complete contrast. Intimate spaces filled with ancient cypress trees, some over 300 years old, twisted into shapes that suggest dragons and phoenixes, surrounding pools that reflect pavilions with names like Pavilion of 10,000 Springs. The Summer Palace, located 15 kilometers northwest of central Beijing, showcases a completely different aesthetic philosophy. Here, human architecture seeks harmony with nature rather than dominance over it. Centered around Kunming Lake, which covers 2.2 square kilometers and was entirely man-made by hand-digging during the Jin dynasty, the Summer Palace sprawls across 9 square kilometers of landscapes that blend water, hills, temples, bridges, and pavilions into what was essentially the world's most elaborate imperial vacation resort. The Empress Dowager Cixi, who effectively ruled China during the late Qing dynasty, spent enormous sums expanding this complex in the 1880s, including commissioning the famous Marble Boat, an actual pavilion built to look like a paddle-wheel steamship, constructed entirely of marble at the lake's edge. Walk the long corridor, a covered walkway stretching 728 meters along the lakeshore, and you'll pass beneath 14,000 individual paintings on the ceiling beams, each depicting scenes from Chinese literature, history, or landscapes, all executed in the brilliant colors that have become signature to Chinese imperial art. In early morning, mist rises from Kunming Lake while the sun illuminates Longevity Hill behind, creating layers of visual depth where stone bridges arc gracefully over water. Willow trees trail their branches like green curtains, and the 17-arch bridge, the longest of its kind in Chinese gardens, stretches 150 meters across the lake with such perfect symmetry that it appears to float. Summer temperatures here hover around 30 degrees. But the carefully designed gardens create microclimates where strategically placed pavilions catch every breeze crossing the water. What mysteries await in the hutongs, the ancient neighborhood alleyways that somehow survived Beijing's modernization? How do these narrow lanes connect to the city's transformation into a modern metropolis? Beyond the imperial grandeur and tourist landmarks lies another Beijing entirely, the hutongs, a labyrinthine network of narrow alleyways and traditional courtyard homes that represent the city's authentic residential fabric dating back 700 years. The word hutong itself derives from a Mongolian term meaning water well, reflecting how these neighborhoods originally organized themselves around communal water sources during the Yuan dynasty. Today, approximately 400,000 Beijing residents still live in these gray brick courtyard homes called siheyuan, despite the fact that the city has demolished over 60% of its historic hutongs since 1949 to make way for modern development. Walking into a preserved hutong neighborhood like Nanluo Guxiang or Dashilar feels like passing through a portal. The rumble of traffic suddenly muffles, replaced by the sound of bicycle bells, children playing, elderly residents practicing Tai Chi, and the rhythmic click-clack of mahjong tiles. The alleys are so narrow, typically just 3-4 meters wide, that two people can barely walk side by side, and sunlight only reaches the ground during midday hours. Doorways painted in fading red lacquer lead into hidden courtyards where families have lived for generations, their homes organized according to strict traditional hierarchy. The main house facing south was reserved for elders, eastern and western side buildings for younger family members, and servants' quarters near the entrance. These structures represent not just architecture, but an entire social philosophy based on Confucian principles of family order and harmony. The contrast between hutong life and modern Beijing couldn't be more dramatic. Within a 5-minute walk from some hutongs, glass and steel skyscrapers soar 300 meters into the sky, housing tech companies, international banks, and luxury apartments where single units sell for over $5 million. The China Zun Tower, Beijing's tallest building, reaches 527.7 meters, 108 floors of postmodern architecture designed to resemble an ancient Chinese ceremonial vessel called a zun. The central business district, locally known as the CBD, transforms utterly at night when LED lights turn the skyline into a symphony of color, with buildings like the CCTV headquarters, a striking angular loop of steel and glass designed by Dutch architect Rem Koolhaas, becoming iconic symbols of Beijing's ambition to position itself as a global financial center rivaling New York and London. Yet even here, tradition asserts itself in unexpected ways. The CCTV building's unusual shape wasn't just architectural experimentation. It incorporated feng shui consultations to ensure proper energy flow, and its construction was timed according to auspicious dates determined by traditional Chinese astrology. This fusion of ancient beliefs and cutting-edge modernity defines contemporary Beijing in ways outsiders often struggle to comprehend. How did a city manage this seemingly impossible balancing act, preserving elements of its 3,000-year history while constructing what amounts to an entirely new metropolis in just 4 decades? The answer lies in understanding Beijing's role as more than just a city. It's the living symbol of Chinese civilization itself, and this symbolic importance has shaped every major decision about its development. The story of how Beijing became the heart of modern China deserves deeper exploration because it reveals not just urban planning, but national psychology. When the People's Republic of China was founded in 1949, Beijing was chosen as the capital partly due to tradition, but also strategic considerations. Its northern location provided better security from potential naval attacks than coastal cities like Shanghai. The early communist period saw significant changes. The city walls, which had surrounded Beijing for centuries, were mostly demolished between 1950 and 1969 to make room for the Second Ring Road, a decision that remains controversial among preservation advocates. Tiananmen Square was massively expanded to create the world's largest public square at 440,000 square meters, big enough to hold 1 million people during the mass rallies that characterized the Mao era. The square's scale was deliberate political theater, designed to demonstrate the power of the socialist state and provide a gathering point for demonstrations of national unity. But the real transformation began in 1978, when China adopted economic reforms under Deng Xiaoping, unleashing development that would utterly reshape Beijing over the following decades. The metamorphosis of Beijing from a relatively quiet capital of 8 million people in 1980 to today's megacity of 21.5 million represents one of the most rapid urban transformations in human history, and nowhere is this more apparent than in the city's preparation for the 2008 Summer Olympics. This single event catalyzed changes that would have taken decades under normal circumstances. Beijing spent an estimated $40 billion on Olympic-related infrastructure, constructing or renovating over 30 sports venues, building new subway lines, planting millions of trees, and even implementing strict pollution controls that temporarily gave the city blue skies. The iconic Bird's Nest Stadium, officially the National Stadium, required 42,000 tons of steel woven into a seemingly random pattern that actually followed precise structural calculations, creating a building that seats 80,000 spectators and has become as recognizable as the Eiffel Tower as a symbol of Beijing. The Water Cube Aquatic Center next door used a revolutionary ETFE cushion technology that made the building's bubble-like exterior glow blue at night while providing natural insulation. But beyond the architectural achievements, the Olympics forced Beijing to confront its identity crisis. Could it modernize rapidly enough to impress the world while maintaining the cultural authenticity that made it uniquely Chinese? This question brings us to the fascinating core of Beijing's story: the deliberate effort to preserve traditional culture within a rapidly modernizing framework, creating a city that exists simultaneously in multiple time periods. The Beijing municipal government has designated over 600 buildings and sites as protected cultural relics, ranging from entire temple complexes like the Temple of Heaven, where emperors performed annual solstice ceremonies, to individual hutong courtyard homes that exemplify traditional residential architecture. The Temple of Heaven itself deserves special attention because it embodies the cosmic principles that governed imperial Beijing. Built in 1420 during the Ming Dynasty, this complex covers 273 hectares, 4 times the size of the Forbidden City, and was designed as a sacred space where the emperor, as the Son of Heaven, would pray for good harvests and perform rituals to maintain harmony between heaven and earth. The main structure, the Hall of Prayer for Good Harvests, is a magnificent triple-gabled circular building, 38 meters tall, built entirely without nails using a complex system of wooden joints, and painted in the brilliant blue that represents heaven in Chinese color symbolism. The most remarkable feature is the Echo Wall, a circular wall 193 meters in circumference, where a whisper at one point can be heard clearly at the opposite side due to acoustic properties the Ming Dynasty architects somehow understood centuries before modern acoustic science. Elderly Beijing residents gather here every morning, turning the surrounding park into an open-air community center where people practice Tai Chi, play traditional instruments, sing opera, practice calligraphy with water on the pavement, and engage in the social interactions that have defined Chinese community life for centuries. But Beijing's cultural preservation extends far beyond monuments into living traditions that continue to shape daily life. The concept of Lao Beijing, or Old Beijing, represents not just nostalgia for the past, but an active maintenance of customs, cuisine, dialect, and social practices that distinguish Beijing culture from the rest of China. Lao Beijing cuisine, for example, centers around dishes that evolved from imperial court cooking and Manchu influences during the Qing dynasty. Peking duck, perhaps Beijing's most famous culinary export, requires preparing the duck through a 24-hour process involving air pumping to separate skin from fat, coating with maltose syrup, and roasting in special ovens at temperatures exceeding 250 degrees Celsius until the skin achieves a glass-like crispness with a deep amber color. Quanjude, the most famous Peking duck restaurant, has been perfecting this process since 1864. And dining there involves an elaborate ritual where chefs slice the duck tableside into precisely 120 pieces, served with thin pancakes, spring onions, cucumber, and sweet bean sauce. A full duck dinner at an established restaurant costs between $50–$80, representing both a culinary and cultural experience. But everyday Beijing food culture extends to humbler fare. Jianbing, a crispy crepe filled with egg, scallions, cilantro, and various sauces, sold by street vendors for about $1.50 and consumed by millions as breakfast. Zhajiangmian, thick wheat noodles topped with fermented soybean paste and julienned vegetables that costs around $3 at local restaurants, and baodu, quick-fried lamb or beef tripe that remains popular despite its challenging texture for outsiders. These foods aren't just meals. They're expressions of Beijing identity, with locals fiercely defending authentic preparation methods against modernization. The Beijing dialect, known as Beijing Hua, serves as the foundation for Mandarin Chinese, but contains distinctive features that mark native Beijing residents. The characteristic R sound, added to the end of words, a retroflex pronunciation that softens consonants, creates a melodic quality absent in southern Chinese dialects. Beijingers also employ unique slang terms passed down through generations. Neo means to argue or be annoying, Dai means cool or fashionable, and the expression mei pu, literally no score, means something is unreliable or won't work out. These linguistic markers create an insider culture where true Lao Beijing people can identify each other within seconds of conversation, maintaining social bonds based on shared heritage in a city increasingly populated by migrants from across China. Currently, only about 60% of Beijing's population was actually born in the city, with the remaining 40% representing internal migrants seeking economic opportunities, creating ongoing tensions between preservation of local culture and accommodation of newcomers who bring different regional traditions. This demographic shift has accelerated dramatically since 2000, driven by Beijing's evolution into a global economic powerhouse. The city's GDP reached $612 billion in 2023, making it the wealthiest city in China and one of the most economically productive urban centers globally. The Zhongguancun district, often called China's Silicon Valley, houses over 20,000 technology companies, including headquarters for major firms like Baidu, Sina, and Lenovo, creating a tech ecosystem that rivals California's Bay Area in innovation and investment. Young professionals flood into the city, many living in apartment complexes that didn't exist 5 years earlier, working 12 14-hour days in industries that barely existed a generation ago, and earning salaries that would have seemed impossible in the Beijing of 1990. An entry-level software engineer at a major tech company might earn $35,000, $50,000 annually, while senior engineers and managers command salaries exceeding $100,000. Figures that represent extraordinary wealth in Chinese terms, but barely cover the cost of living in central Beijing, where average apartment prices exceed $10,000 per square meter. The housing market reveals perhaps the starkest example of Beijing's transformation and the tensions it creates. A typical two-bedroom apartment in a central location like Chaoyang or Dongcheng districts costs between $800,000 and $1.5 million to purchase, placing homeownership beyond the reach of most young Beijing residents despite their relatively high incomes. Monthly rents for similar apartments range from $1,500 to $3,000, consuming a huge portion of professionals' salaries and forcing many to live in distant suburbs with commutes exceeding 2 hours each way. The Beijing subway system, now the world's second longest at 783 kilometers across 27 lines, was massively expanded partly to accommodate these long-distance commuters. During rush hour, subway cars pack with such density that passengers literally cannot move, with professional pushers sometimes helping force people into cars before doors close. A single subway ride costs just $0.51 regardless of distance, representing a government subsidy designed to encourage public transit use and reduce the horrific traffic congestion that plagues Beijing's streets. Yet, even with this extensive subway network, the city struggles with approximately 6.2 million registered vehicles. a number that would be far higher except for the strict license plate lottery system introduced in 2011, where fewer than 1 in 2,000 applicants receive permission to purchase a car each month. The environmental challenges Beijing faces represent the dark side of its rapid development and remain one of the most serious quality-of-life issues for residents. The city's infamous smog, caused by a combination of coal-fired power plants, industrial emissions, vehicle exhaust, and dust from surrounding deserts, regularly pushes air quality into hazardous ranges where the air quality index exceeds 300, more than 12 times the World Health Organization's recommended maximum. On the worst days, visibility drops below 200 meters, the sun appears as a dim orange disk, and residents wear N95 masks just to walk outside. The government has implemented increasingly strict controls, including shutting down coal power plants within city limits, relocating heavy industry to other provinces, and implementing emergency measures during international events where factories within 300 kilometers of Beijing are ordered to reduce operations. These efforts have shown results. Beijing's average PM2.5 levels dropped from 89.5 micrograms per cubic meter in 2013 to 33 in 2023. But pollution remains a persistent concern and a major factor in why some expatriates and even wealthy Chinese residents choose to leave the city. What will we discover about how Beijing balances this ultra-modern lifestyle with ancient traditions that continue to shape daily routines and social expectations? The true revelation of Beijing's character emerges not in its monuments or modern districts, but in how ordinary residents navigate the collision between Communist Party authority, capitalist economics, traditional values, and global influences, creating a daily reality that defies simple categorization. Every morning at precisely 6:00 a.m., thousands of elderly residents flood parks across Beijing for morning exercises that have been practiced for generations, performing Tai Chi in synchronized groups, practicing sword dancing with actual bladed weapons, hanging from trees to stretch their spines, and even engaging in face-slapping exercises where they vigorously slap their own faces, believing it improves circulation and prevents aging. Meanwhile, their grandchildren are preparing for school days that begin at 7:30 a.m. and often don't end until 9 p.m. once after-school tutoring sessions are included, part of China's notoriously intense education system where students face enormous pressure to excel on the Gaokao University entrance exam that essentially determines their entire future career trajectory. The contrast is striking. Elderly Beijingers whose lives were shaped by the Cultural Revolution and Mao-era scarcity now occupy public spaces with a confidence and leisureliness that their stressed, overworked grandchildren can barely imagine, while those same young people navigate a hyper-competitive capitalist economy that would have been unthinkable to their grandparents. This generational divide reveals deeper tensions about what Beijing represents and where it's headed. The Communist Party maintains strict control over political expression. Social media is heavily censored. Foreign websites like Google, Facebook, and YouTube are blocked behind the Great Firewall, and surveillance cameras equipped with facial recognition technology track residents' movements throughout the city, with Beijing alone hosting over 15 million cameras, creating what some call the world's most monitored urban population. Yet simultaneously, Beijing has become perhaps Asia's most dynamic cultural scene, with art districts like 798 showcasing avant-garde exhibitions that would have resulted in imprisonment during the Mao era, underground music venues hosting punk and hip-hop shows, and LGBTQ communities maintaining a visible if legally precarious presence in certain neighborhoods like Sanlitun. The city exists in a constant state of negotiation between control and freedom, between collective good and individual expression, between Chinese characteristics and global influences. Beijingers have mastered the art of understanding which boundaries are flexible and which are absolute. They freely criticize local government corruption and inefficiency, debate economic policies, and mock social trends. But they know that direct challenges to party authority or organized political dissent cross a line that invites severe consequences. The social credit system, implemented nationwide but tested extensively in Beijing, exemplifies this complex relationship between state and citizen. Residents accumulate points based on behaviors ranging from paying bills on time to volunteering in communities, while losing points for infractions like jaywalking, leaving negative online reviews, or failing to visit elderly parents regularly. Yes, filial piety is actually monitored and enforced. A low score can result in being banned from purchasing airplane or high-speed train tickets, blocked from certain jobs, or having your children rejected from better schools. Yet many Beijingers express support for the system, viewing it as promoting social responsibility and punishing bad behavior that Western individualism permits. This reflects a fundamental difference in how collectivist versus individualist cultures balance personal freedom against social harmony, a tension that defines modern Beijing perhaps more than any architectural landmark. The city has become a laboratory for questions that will shape the 21st century. Can economic prosperity exist without political freedom? Can traditional values coexist with modernity? Can a society embrace global culture while maintaining distinct identity? Beijing doesn't provide definitive answers, but it offers a fascinating case study watched by billions worldwide. Now, I want to hear from you. After learning about this complex reality, what's your honest impression of how Beijing balances state control with personal freedom? Could you personally adapt to living in a society where social behavior is monitored and scored? What aspect of Beijing's transformation, the preservation of tradition, the economic miracle, or the social experiments surprised you most? Pause the video and leave a comment with your thoughts. Your comments are the best way to support this channel, and I genuinely love reading different perspectives. Take a moment to read other viewers' comments too. You'll find fascinating insights from people who've lived in Beijing or visited. Thank you for engaging with this content. Now let's continue discovering more wonders of this extraordinary city. Beyond the political and social complexities, Beijing offers cultural experiences that connect directly to China's artistic heritage. The Beijing Opera, known as Jingju in Mandarin, represents one of the most distinctive performing arts traditions on Earth, combining singing, dialogue, acrobatics, and martial arts into highly stylized productions that foreigners often find bewildering, but that remain beloved by traditionalists. Performers wear elaborate makeup with colors carrying specific meanings. Red indicates loyalty and courage, white represents treachery, black shows integrity, and costumes so ornate they can weigh over 20 kilograms. The music, played on traditional instruments like the jinghu, a two-stringed fiddle, and various percussion instruments, sounds discordant to Western ears trained on harmonic progressions, but follows complex melodic patterns developed over centuries. Watching a Beijing opera performance at venues like the Liwan Theater costs around $30–50 and provides insight into aesthetic traditions that prioritized symbolic expression over realistic representation. The exaggerated movements, the distinctive singing style where performers employ falsetto voices reaching impossibly high pitches, and the percussion that punctuates every gesture create an experience that's either captivating or incomprehensible depending on your cultural frame of reference. Beijing's food scene extends far beyond Peking duck into regional cuisines from across China, reflecting how the capital has absorbed culinary traditions from its diverse population. Donghuamen Night Market, located near the Forbidden City, offers adventurous eaters the chance to sample delicacies that challenge Western sensibilities. Scorpions on sticks, crispy when fried, tasting vaguely like potato chips. Silkworm larvae, starfish, seahorses, and various organ meats presented in ways that emphasize their exotic nature for tourists. For about $2 to $3 per skewer, you can taste items that would cost far more in restaurants while enjoying the carnival atmosphere of vendors shouting, tourists taking photos, and the sizzle of woks cooking hundreds of items simultaneously. But Beijing's authentic culinary treasures lie in smaller neighborhood restaurants serving regional specialties. Hot pot, originally from Sichuan but beloved in Beijing, involves sitting around a boiling pot of spiced broth, often split into spicy and non-spicy sections, and cooking thin-sliced meats, vegetables, mushrooms, and noodles yourself. A meal that costs $15.25 per person and typically extends for hours as groups socialize over countless rounds of food and beer. Lamb skewers seasoned with cumin, influenced by the Uyghur minority from Xinjiang province, smoke on charcoal grills throughout Beijing's streets, costing just $1–2 for 2 skewers, and providing some of the best late-night eating the city offers. The tea culture in Beijing deserves special mention because it connects to social practices dating back over 1,000 years. Traditional tea houses like those in Tiananmen or around Haohai Lake offer not just beverages but entire ceremonies where tea masters demonstrate proper brewing techniques using clay teapots from Yixing that have been cured over decades of use. Green tea like Longjing, Dragon Well, oolong varieties like Tiguanyin, Iron Goddess of Mercy, and Pu'er, a fermented tea that can age for decades and cost thousands of dollars for rare vintages, are served in tiny cups no larger than shot glasses, with multiple infusions of the same leaves revealing different flavor profiles. A tea ceremony experience costs $20–40 and provides a meditative counterpoint to Beijing's frenetic energy, though visitors should be cautious of tourist-trapped tea houses that employ attractive young women to lure foreign men into overpriced sessions that can cost hundreds of dollars. The art of tea appreciation extends into daily life, with Beijing residents carrying thermoses of hot tea everywhere and office workers keeping personal tea sets at their desks. The act of brewing and sipping tea throughout the day serves as a ritual of continuity connecting modern workers to centuries of tradition. Beijing's artistic scene has exploded in recent decades, with the 798 Art District transforming from a decommissioned military factory complex built by East Germans in the 1950s into China's most important contemporary art hub. The distinctive Bauhaus architecture of the original factories provides an industrial backdrop for dozens of galleries, studios, cafes, and design shops, showcasing everything from traditional Chinese painting, reinterpreted with modern themes, to installations critiquing consumerism and urbanization. On weekends, the area fills with young Chinese urbanites dressed in cutting-edge fashion, international art collectors hunting for the next Zhang Xiaogang or Ai Weiwei, and tourists photographing the striking combination of communist-era industrial architecture and contemporary artistic expression. Entry to most galleries is free, making $7.98 accessible to everyone, though the surrounding shops selling designer goods and the upscale restaurants ensure that wealth remains very visible. The district represents Beijing's ability to repurpose its industrial past into cultural capital, transforming spaces that once produced electronics for the military into venues questioning China's rapid transformation and its costs. The hutong neighborhoods, beyond their historical value, have become sites of cultural negotiation, as young Chinese entrepreneurs open craft beer bars, boutique hotels, and artisanal shops in renovated courtyard homes, creating a hipster aesthetic that walks the line between preservation and gentrification. In neighborhoods like Gulu and Drum Tower, centuries-old courtyard homes now house establishments like specialty coffee shops, serving hand-pour brews for $5 per cup, more expensive than in many Western cities, alongside elderly residents still shopping at wet markets where live fish swim in buckets and vendors butcher chickens on demand. This juxtaposition creates fascinating tensions. Wealthy young professionals paying $2,000 monthly rent for renovated hutong apartments live meters away from elderly residents in unrestored homes lacking indoor plumbing and paying less than $50 monthly in nominal rent for properties their families have occupied for generations. The question of how to preserve hutong culture while improving living standards remains contentious, with some advocating for complete preservation even if residents lack modern amenities, while others argue that freezing the hutongs in time essentially turns living neighborhoods into open-air museums for tourist entertainment. Beijing's park culture reveals how residents reclaim public space in a city increasingly privatized and commercialized. The Summer Palace, Temple of Heaven, and Beihai Park transform each morning into vast outdoor community centers where thousands gather not just for exercise but for social activities that define urban Chinese culture. Single parents, more often mothers, gather in designated areas of parks, bringing photos and resumes of their unmarried adult children, displaying them on umbrellas while negotiating potential matches with other parents in what's called the marriage market, a phenomenon reflecting Chinese cultural expectations around marriage, family pressure on young adults, and the generation gap regarding relao, tie-in-ships. These marriage markets, held every weekend in parks across Beijing, see parents age 50-70 bargaining over their children's education levels, salaries, property ownership, and family backgrounds as if arranging business deals, while their actual children often prefer meeting partners organically through dating apps like Tantan or Momo. The practice reveals enduring traditional values regarding family involvement in major life decisions, even as younger generations increasingly resist such arrangements. The 798 and Kaohsiungdi art districts aren't Beijing's only creative zones. The city has developed numerous specialized commercial areas catering to every conceivable interest. Panjia Yuan Antique Market, operating since 1992, sprawls across 48,500 square meters with over 3,000 dealers selling everything from genuine Qing Dynasty porcelain, rare and expensive, to convincing reproductions, common and cheap, Mao-era propaganda posters, Cultural Revolution memorabilia, minority ethnic textiles, jade carvings, and calligraphy scrolls. The market operates primarily on weekends, when it becomes a treasure hunt requiring knowledge, patience, and negotiation skills. Prices start absurdly high, with vendors expecting customers to bargain down to 30–50% of the initial asking price. A scroll that a vendor claims is 200 years old and prices at $500 might actually be 20 years old and worth $50. But the game of negotiation and the possibility of genuine discoveries keep collectors and tourists returning. The market reflects both China's long artistic heritage and the entrepreneurial spirit that characterizes modern Beijing commerce. The Lama Temple, or Yonghe Temple, represents one of Beijing's most important Tibetan Buddhist sites and demonstrates the city's religious diversity despite official atheism. Originally built in 1694 as a residence for eunuchs, it was converted into a lamasery in 1744 and remains an active monastery housing monks from Tibet and Mongolia. The temple complex includes 5 main halls, the most impressive being the Wanfu Pavilion, which houses an 18-meter-tall statue of Maitreya Buddha carved from a single piece of white sandalwood, one of the largest wooden Buddhist sculptures in the world. On religious holidays and festival days, the temple fills with worshippers burning incense that creates thick smoke obscuring the courtyards, spinning prayer wheels inscribed with mantras, and performing prostrations before various Buddha statues. Entry costs about $4, and the temple offers a window into religious practices that continue despite China's officially secular government. The sight of elderly Chinese performing full-body prostrations, a devotion requiring dropping to hands and knees, then extending fully prone on the ground for hours, demonstrates the depth of religious feeling that persists in corners of Beijing life, coexisting uneasily with Communist Party ideology that officially considers religion superstitious. Planning a trip to Beijing requires understanding practical realities that can significantly affect your experience. Beijing Capital International Airport, PEK, located 32 kilometers northeast of the city center, handles international flights from major cities worldwide, while the newer Beijing Daxing International Airport, PKX, opened in 2019 and located 46 kilometers south of the city, is one of the world's largest airports with a stunning starfish-shaped design by Zaha Hadid. Direct flights from New York take approximately 14 hours, from London about 10 hours, from Sydney roughly 11 hours, and from Dubai about 7 hours. Flight prices vary dramatically by season. Expect to pay $800–$1,500 for economy class round trip from North America or Europe, with prices increasing during Chinese New Year, January–February, and Golden Week holidays, early October. The Airport Express train connects both airports to the city center for approximately $4 to $5, taking 30 minutes from Capital Airport and 50 minutes from Daxing, offering the fastest and most reliable option compared to taxis, which can take 60–90 minutes depending on traffic and cost $20–$30. Visa requirements demand advanced planning as China doesn't offer visa on arrival for most nationalities. U.S. citizens need a tourist visa, L visa, requiring a valid passport with at least 6 months remaining validity and at least 2 blank pages, a completed application form with a photo, proof of round-trip flights, hotel reservations, and usually a visa fee of around $140 for single entry valid for 30 days. The process typically takes 4 to 7 business days through the Chinese consulate or visa service centers. UK, Canadian, and Australian citizens face similar requirements and fees. Some nationals can enter visa-free for 72 to 144 hours if transiting through Beijing to a third country, but this requires careful documentation of onward flights. Starting in late 2024, China began offering more flexible visa policies to boost tourism, but requirements change frequently, so check current regulations at least 2 months before travel. China's currency is the renminbi, RMB, with the basic unit being the yuan, often represented as YIs or CNY. As of late 2025, the exchange rate hovers around 2 RMB to 1 USD, making quick mental math relatively simple. 100 RMB equals approximately $14. Cash remains important in Beijing despite the dominance of mobile payment apps like WeChat Pay and Alipay, which foreign tourists often struggle to set up as they require Chinese bank accounts or complicated workarounds. Major hotels and some tourist restaurants accept international credit cards, but many local establishments remain cash only. ATMs are widely available and typically accept foreign cards with Visa or MasterCard logos, though they charge fees around $3–5 per withdrawal. Regarding costs, Beijing sits in the mid-range compared to global cities. A coffee at Starbucks costs about $5, at a local cafe $2–3. A meal for 2 at a mid-range restaurant runs $25–40, while street food meals can cost just $3 to $5. A decent hotel in a central location averages $80–150 per night. Budget hostels $15 to $30, luxury hotels $200–400. A daily transportation budget of $5–10 covers multiple subway trips and occasional taxis. Safety in Beijing rates relatively high compared to many global capitals. Violent crime against tourists is rare, and you can walk most areas even at night without significant concern. However, petty crime like pickpocketing occurs in crowded tourist areas like the Forbidden City and Tiananmen Square, so maintain awareness of your belongings. More concerning are the various tourist scams. Art student scams, where friendly English-speaking young people invite tourists to view an art exhibition, then pressure them into buying overpriced paintings. Tea house scams, where attractive women befriend solo male travelers and lead them to establishments that charge hundreds for basic tea service. And taxi scams, where drivers refuse to use meters or claim meters are broken, demanding inflated flat fares. Always insist taxis use meters, starting fare around $2, then $0.35 per kilometer, or use ride-hailing apps like Didi, which function like Uber with transparent pricing. Pollution can pose health risks, particularly for people with respiratory conditions. Check the air quality index before planning outdoor activities and consider bringing N95 masks for days when AQI exceeds 150. Transportation within Beijing relies heavily on the subway system, which is clean, efficient, safe, and incredibly cheap. The basic fare starts at 50 cents for trips under 6 kilometers, maxing out at around $1.50 for the longest journeys, making it by far the most economical way to navigate the city. Purchase a transportation card, hutong, for $4 refundable deposit that works on subways and buses, or use the Beijing Metro app to purchase tickets via phone. Trains run from roughly 5 a.m. to 11 hours 0 p.m. with frequency ranging from 2 to 5 minutes during rush hours to 8 to 10 minutes in off-peak times. Buses are even cheaper at $0.31 per trip, but require understanding routes and stops entirely in Chinese, making them challenging for foreign tourists. Taxis are relatively affordable with flagfall around $2 and typical cross-city journeys costing $10–20. but communication barriers exist as most drivers speak no English. Have your destination written in Chinese characters or use translation apps. Bike-sharing programs like Meituan and Hello Bike offer convenient short-distance transport for $0.20, 50 per 15 minutes, though navigating Beijing's chaotic traffic on a bike requires confidence and situational awareness. Accessing Beijing's cultural heart, understanding the city's history and contemporary complexity, requires approaching with both curiosity and cultural sensitivity. When visiting temples or sacred sites, dress modestly, covered shoulders and knees, speak quietly, and ask permission before photographing worshippers. At the Forbidden City and other major monuments, expect massive crowds, especially during Chinese holidays, and arrive early. Gates open at 8:30 a.m. to avoid the worst congestion. Hiring a knowledgeable English-speaking guide for $100, $150 per day can transform your understanding. The buildings themselves are impressive, but the stories, symbolism, and historical context bring them alive. Regarding hutong tours, choose operators that respect residents' privacy rather than treating neighborhoods as human zoos. Better tour companies partner with local families and contribute to community development. Learning basic Mandarin phrases, hello, thank you, excuse me, how much, enhances interactions significantly and shows respect, though many young Beijingers, especially in tourist areas, speak functional English. Most importantly, approach Beijing's contradictions, the gleaming modernity alongside persistent poverty, the censorship alongside cultural vibrancy, the ancient traditions alongside ruthless commercialism, with nuance rather than simplistic judgment. What a journey through one of humanity's most extraordinary urban experiments. Creating these documentaries requires tremendous research, careful fact-checking, and dedication to presenting cultures with both accuracy and respect. If you found this exploration of Beijing valuable, please give it a like and leave a comment sharing what most surprised you or what aspects you'd like to learn more about. Your engagement is the best way to support this content and helps me continue bringing you documentaries about the world's most fascinating cultures and places. For those who haven't subscribed yet, don't wait any longer. Click that subscribe button now and turn on notifications so you never miss our journeys through unique destinations across our incredible planet. I'm leaving another documentary recommendation that I know you'll absolutely love. Thank you for joining this exploration of Beijing, and I'll see you on the next journey.